Good morning folks, this is Naeem Aslam, Chief Market Analyst at AvaTrade. Welcome to our fundamental video. Today's price action is only about one major fundamental news which came out this morning. I'm speaking of the emergency rate cut, interest rate cut by the Bank of England. It reduced the interest rate by 50 basis points. Remember, we have seen a similar move by the Federal Reserve and other central banks as well. So the coordinated action by the central bank is aimed to soften the blow of coronavirus. Now, I still think that the coordinated action is pretty good for the market because it will take the sting out of this punch, but I think there is still more bad news to come, and that bad news isn't really baked into the economic numbers yet, because so far, even if we look at the UK's GDP number today, it isn't really giving us that clear evidence that how much weakness is really we're going to see because of the coronavirus. Why? Because it takes time for this weakness to finally feed into the economic numbers. Not to mention about what is going to happen with respect to the earnings, because the disruption in the supply chain is going to create a huge amount of uncertainty when it comes to the earnings season. Now, as for the market reaction, we are seeing the momentum coming back in because traders and investors are focused on one major element, that is, yes, Donald Trump is determined that US taxpayers' payroll tax is going to go down to zero for this particular year. And investors are hoping that is really going to provide that cushion in the market that we really need, so that consumer confidence or the consumer sentiment doesn't really become weak from here. Now, if that happens, that is great. But I think paying no payroll tax for the rest of the year is a challenging task. But perhaps Donald Trump will get things his way. But nonetheless, I think right now the focus in the market, the sentiment in the market overall is positive, and that is the reason we're seeing the European markets trading higher. But if we start looking at the US futures, they are still trading lower. At one particular time this morning, the US Dow Jones futures were down by nearly 900 points, and now they're barely down by 300 points. And this gives us the evidence that the European markets, the positive momentum in the European market is perhaps providing a lot of momentum, the upward momentum for the US markets as well. As for the gold price, still trading at 1660 level more or less. I think the current retracement in the gold price is a huge opportunity for investors to get back in. Why? Because in the next week's Federal Reserve meeting, an interest rate cut is expected. And in terms of basis point, JP Morgan is talking about a 1 full percentage, while Goldman Sachs has called for 75 basis point. I think anything above 50 is pretty good and decent, but it is not priced when it comes to the gold price. So keep an eye on that. That's all for today. See you guys tomorrow.